Welcome to the Mystic Feminine Fertility Podcast, a sacred container for heart-centered conversations about fertility, pregnancy, menstrual cycles, and divine feminine energy. My name is Ayuaschsa, and I'm a fertility awareness educator, a holistic reproductive health practitioner, and a modern mystic. It is my absolute joy and pleasure to host these conversations and share them with you. Hello. Welcome back. I'm so happy to be here today with Cynthia. Cynthia's enjoyed a career that has spanned 3 continents and has explored the rigors of science and the medical profession from the Western tradition to the Eastern doxology found in the ashrams of India. She's a plant medicine guide, a Reiki master, and energy work that has also studied yoga in the United States and India and has been certified in 2001. She's a registered nurse and a licensed massage therapist who has delivered a variety of massage therapies, including hot stone, cranial sacral, deep tissue, reflexology, lymphatic, prenatal, and intuitive massage. She is a gifted psychic medium that utilizes her abilities to channel and connect to spirit. Whether you are looking to feel better, work through grief, understand your higher self, or even get a reality check, she is your woman. We were also throwing around the title of Frequency Alchemist from Miss Cynthia. Cynthia, thanks so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. I'm so excited to have this conversation with everybody.
Too. And the first question that I normally ask my guests is, where are you at in your cycle? As we were talking about before, you were sharing that you have moved beyond the archetype of the maiden and into your wise woman years.
Yes, and I love that term, wise woman. We all are wise women, even no matter what part of our cycle we're in, right? And yet, so many of us go into the wise woman cycle struggling. And I am doing my best to do that with grace and ease.
It is definitely a time of transformation.
Yes, but I've really learned to embrace contrast and be grateful for contrast. And the body is just another, always in a contrast space, right? Really, when we look at it. And it really is a magical time for me.
I'm curious, before we get into talking retreats and such,
Sure.
have you felt any difference or shift in your intuition, your psychic abilities, or your spiritual practices after the shift, after menopause?
Well, I want to say, I think I've always been super resistant with my psychic intuitive abilities in my younger years. And I think as you come into those wise woman years, I'm just unapologetically me. So I would say that, that creative energy that moves out of the womb and deeper into our heart space assists in us just loving ourselves more. So yeah, I would say there has been a transition into, not using that creative space for babies and even other, like, just being more creative inwardly. It's definitely taken me deeper inwardly and more accepting of just who I am, and maybe even the things that I thought were flaws are some of my superpowers.
Yes, it sounds like it's been a pathway into deeper self-love, self-acceptance, self-inquiry. There's so much depth within our own bodies. The womb, whether it's being used for cycling or for pregnancy or for bleeding or for not, whatever it's doing, it is this magical space in between of like science and mysticism. Like there's a physical womb, but it's also there's this great expanse of like, we don't know.
I like the term multi-dimensional vortex. I just heard that one recently, and that really resonated, right? Like we literally bring a soul through into that womb space. It is a multi-dimensional vortex.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Right? Isn't that juicy?
It's juicy. And what are some of the skills or psychic spiritual tools that you use on a, consistent basis to keep yourself aligned, healthy, happy?
The breath work is really a big one for me. Just I definitely have a daily practice, not a rigorous practice, but when I'm working on somebody else, I instantly go into like a ujjayi breath so that I'm centered, and I use the breath to get out of my head and out of my own way when I'm working in other people's energies. Um, I prefer not to use the word discipline. I know that's pretty big in the spiritual yogic realm. I like the word practice, because I feel like I'm always practicing something new with the breath. And it's just, we don't ever have to take a conscious breath. And to me, it's such a gift when I do. So I would say I spend a lot of times aware that I might be shallowly breathing, barely breathing at all, and then going back to that deeper conscious breath and following that breath and seeing where it takes me. So, yeah. So
Breath.
that's a meditative practice in itself, right?
Yeah. Like you were saying, you don't ever have to take a conscious breath.
No,
Body
it's a
will breathe
gift.
on its own.
It's a gift we give ourselves. And to me, we call it so many different things now. We call it pranayama, we call it mindfulness, right? We call it presence. All of that takes us deeper into that breath experience.
And the breath it's dynamic. It goes
Mm,
in and out, up and down, but it's also something you can fix your attention on.
right. And so many people find it boring to fix their attention on it, right? And yet it can be so delicious and mysterious and nourishing and nurturing and surprising to how much we can use that as a tool for self discovery, self healing, self growth, on and on and on, self love.
Hmm. And there's breaths for grounding, there's breath
Mm,
for activation, there's breath for
yes.
sleep, there's breath for clearing out energies. Like there's so many different types of both conscious and we'll say unconscious breath.
Right.
Autonomic
Right.
nervous system gets involved and it takes over. And it's interesting. Yeah, some people will say like that, watching the breath is boring or that meditating is boring, but we're so
Mm,
overstimulated and stressed out that it's really hard for a lot of people to slow
yeah,
down that much and to fix their attention on just one thing.
I totally agree. And my other tool is definitely forcing myself out into nature on those days that might not be a pleasant nature day, like when it's cold or windy or downpouring. Like I'm really trying to, like, my little girl had no problem going out on those days. I'm trying to be more playful with myself, and I find nature such a again, a magical tool to connect deeper to myself. So
And does movement play a role in your self-care or spiritual practices?
it does. I unfortunately decided to take on an autoimmune disorder during the COVID pandemic, which is called polymyalgia rheumatica. So it's actually like arthritis of the muscles, which has not been a fun journey. It's extremely painful. To the point I had it as bad in the beginning where I literally would fall to the floor to crawl to the bathroom in the morning. It strikes the body the toughest in the morning. It also supposedly brings on a Great Depression, which I refuse to go into. And the only medical treatment is high doses of steroids, which again, I have refused to go into. So, movement plays a big part in my life. And I feel like this beautiful gift of this disorder has taught me, is a master teacher right now, for it has taught me a lot more mindfulness. It has taught me to be grateful for the movement that I had, all the freedom and movement I had before. Um, it's almost like my body now has to be in uh, walking meditation all the time in order not to activate a specific muscle group because it hits different muscles at different times during the day, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Um, as we get into the retreat, I did have a lot of relief when I was in Guatemala. So I look forward to talking more about that. And again, I believe that all autoimmune disorders are our body's way of telling us that we are in war with ourselves on some level. And this was an autoimmune disorder that was genetic, which I did not know that my mother had. And my biggest war was that I knew I didn't want to do the um, vaccine for COVID, and I did it because I was still in the nursing world, and I did it for the clients, not for myself. So I instantly paid the price, but in it, like, I feel that life happens for us, and this, like I said, has been my master teacher in learning how to not be too attached to the label and not to make it a part of my daily life. I do plan on fully releasing it. I'm very close to fully releasing it.
It sounds like your view of the body and of health is one of honoring the wisdom of the body. Honoring the wisdom of the body, both when it's doing the things that you want it to do and when it's doing the things that you would prefer it not to.
Yes, indeed. And that's such a, right? That's the master teacher right there. Truly, our bodies are always communicating to us. You know, I worked at a place called Natural Pain Management and Wellness Center, and I didn't understand my clients that had chronic pain. And now I do. Now I do.
Now you do. And you were saying that when you were in Guatemala, you got some relief. Was that immediately when you got off the plane? Was it the activities, the food? What do you attribute that shift to?
I attribute that to my daily yoga practices there, my daily connection to nature there, and to my 2 ayahuasca journeys. So it was all of the above. My whole intention for that retreat was to make a better connection with this autoimmune disorder and figure out a way that I don't have to carry this into much more of my life. I do believe that we get to decide. We have choices what we want to carry and what we don't. And sometimes it, we think we've nailed it. Like, okay. And this has been so multi-layered for me. It's given me permission to go into other lifetimes and beliefs that I carried in from other lifetimes. And one, which am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Sure, go for it.
The one belief that came through another lifetime, which just cracks me up, was fucking white man. And so I came in with all this anger towards the elitism that we have on this planet, towards what the fucking white man has done to the world. And I'm like, wait a second, I came in as a fucking white woman. Like, talk about a battle inside. I need to release that disharmony within me. That belief no longer serves me. And of course, I've been indigenous in many lifetimes, so I could see why I took on that belief, but to continue to carry that is not serving me or the planet, especially because my blueprint is divine love and healing. So I like that was very disheartening for me. And I realized that that was another thing that I automatically was programmed to go into, was that frequency of disheartenment. And again, being divine love and healing, I can't continue to look for things to feel disheartened about, because that breaks my heart every day. Instead of opening and sending my love outwards, I was breaking my own heart. So this autoimmune disorder brought those huge awarenesses to me that I didn't understand. I remember releasing the belief, and I know this one came from my mother because she still says it, people are so stupid. And I remember getting into the shower one day and hearing it in my head, people are so stupid. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a second, I'm a person. I'm literally saying I'm stupid and letting that one go. The programs are so deep,
So
and they're like grooved in. The longer we live, the deeper the groove. So there's just these neural pathways that we just keep traveling down until we choose awareness and are willing to create something new, create something different.
Hmm. It's so empowering to have the knowledge that you can create something different and release things. The first step to shifting your mind, shifting your beliefs, is becoming aware of what's below the surface. What is the belief? Like getting curious about it. Like like you were saying, where does this come from? Where have I heard this? What proof is there? And then asking yourself, am I going to choose to hold on to this? Or am I going to release it and let it go?
And I feel like because we have gotten so caught up in the social media stuff, it leads us down a different path of curiosity. I think we're all naturally curious individuals, and yet when we're so curious about what's happening outside of us and not curious enough about what's happening within us, it's hard to recognize that we do have choices and that we are these powerful manifestors that attract to us exactly what we need in most cases. It may not seem that way when we're in it, but it is the truth.
And one wonderful way to get in touch with yourself and to go inside is through retreats.
It really is.
So, Cynthia went to Guatemala last year and co facilitated this retreat with Bianca. And it sounded like they had a magical journey in the Guac forest. And now we're doing it again. They have graciously invited me to join as a facilitator this year. And so this will be my first year doing this retreat. But I did live in Guatemala at the lake in the surrounding area back in 2019. So I'm very familiar with the area and with the energy there. I'm excited to hear about your experience, Cynthia. But for me, it was such an incredible space, a vortex of energy. This gorgeous lake surrounded by volcanoes, just enriched with Mayan culture. It attracted so many mystics and healers and creatives. The fruit was so fresh, and the air was so clean, and the rain was so cleansing and powerful. I really look back on that phase of my life with a lot of fondness. It was so filled with magic. I'm so excited to go back.
Yeah, 1 week was definitely not long enough for me. I will tell you that. Like, I literally felt if I spent another week on that mountain, that I would have come back completely free of this autoimmune disorder. I felt myself trudging up that mountain and then floating back down. I could feel the different vibration of my body, and yet I could also feel that I wasn't completely released of everything that needed to come out, from whatever I allowed the inflammation to go pretty deep before I looked into it. I think I learned to choose suffering over freedom, over liberation. And some of that is just age. I'm 61 years old. Most women my age are on so many pharmaceuticals and choose so much suffering. So I do really honor how aware I am and how much I am willing to change and grow. So, I mean, most people my age would be like, "What are you talking about? You chose this autoimmune disorder. What are you? You didn't choose it, right?"
And what I hear is that you're not saying it in a victimy way. You chose it. It's about learning lessons as a human and choosing to see the intelligence of your body and honoring your spiritual path. It's not just me, it's my higher self. It's the part of me that knows what lessons I came here to learn, all of these things. And that's an important distinction.
And I was really good at playing that. I do know that energy, as we all do, but coming out of that is a powerful place to be too. And we probably wax and wane a lot. throughout the day, even, right? It's part of that awareness. We're on a planet of polarity, duality still. So,
To some extent, we all choose our own struggles and trials, hardships, joys, and pleasures. That choice isn't normally like conscious. Most of us wouldn't consciously choose to struggle, but it's on the astral, the subconscious, or even the unconscious realms. Our conscious choices can only influence so much, but by learning to get in touch with ourselves and this concept of the higher self, we can bring in a bit more empowerment and trust. Things aren't just happening to us randomly, but it's a part of our spiritual evolution and our growth.
so for me, that word subconscious ties me into another term that isn't used that frequently, that I hear anyway, but I use it quite frequently now, is super conscious. So, like the higher self, I now call the super consciousness. So it's like those two are so tied together,
Yes.
right? And like if you're willing to dive into your subconsciousness, it's like a highway to your super consciousness,
Hmm.
right? It's so much fun. It really is. This is just a playground, and um, I really, really hope that more women that are choosing suffering choose to see it that way.
Yeah, and some of them might be joining us in Guatemala in January.
Oh, that would be lovely. Yes, yes,
This retreat, I'm so excited because it really is about depth and transformation. It,
yes,
it's curated through different
yes.
activities, workshops, guides for you to step outside of your daily life,
Mm.
to interrupt your normal programming so that you can really get in touch with the deepest, sometimes darkest, sometimes
Yeah.
joyous parts of yourself.
And I would say the best way to be prepared for a retreat like this is to expect the unexpected, right? Like expect the unexpected. And when you're willing to expect the unexpected, then you're prepared for it, because it's like, oh, I didn't know that was going to arise, but here it is. Let's play with it. Let's have fun with it. Or
Yeah.
let's go sit in our room and cry. Whatever you choose, it's not one is, you know, right and one is wrong. It just is.
Yeah, things will come up and move and flow. And so it
Mhm.
sounds like last year before the retreat, you set an intention
Correct.
to heal your autoimmune condition or to
Hmm.
release it. Was
Yes.
that something that you set that intention before you went, or you set it once you arrived? Or
Oh, I had to set it before I went because I knew how tough it was going to be going up those mountain steps.
there's a little bit of a hike?
So yeah, so I really, really probably started focusing. I did a lot of travel last year. And when I came, I was doing meditative retreats,
Mm.
and when I came back from my meditative retreat in October, no, I guess it was before that. Yeah, it was. Um, I was in a park, and this little angel said, "Oh, I noticed that you have inflammation in my body." I'm like, "Really? You notice I'm limping?" Yeah. And she's like, "Have you ever heard of castor oil packs?"
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "No." And so I would say that was the beginning of this transformational self-care journey, was starting the castor oil packs,
I love castor oil packs.
because just even the discipline of like getting into bed and realizing I had forgotten to put it on, and being like, "Nope, I got to get out of bed. I got to go get it. This is my ritual. I am sleeping with this castor oil pack until I go to Guatemala, like." And I even decided, which I didn't know I was going to decide, to take it with me. And I have a funny story where we missed our plane in Buffalo because of weather, and so our whole journey to Guatemala was a little unexpected for most people. It was fine for me. I just kept my ritual. So we had a sleep overnight in the airport. And I'm like, well, it's time to put my castor oil pack on. So I put my castor oil pack on, and I totally forgot it and went through security with it on. But luckily, the typical scanner ones that, hands up like this, broke right before me. So they put me through a different system and still no clue that my castor oil pack is on, but I would have been so embarrassed had I been pulled over like, okay, woman, what's that around your belly? How do you explain a castor oil pack to security?
Say I have inflammation and trying to support my detoxification pathways. And then they put you in a room and they ask you lots of questions.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. So like talk about the angels coming in though. And I still didn't realize it. As soon as we got to the gate, I had to go to the restroom and I'm like, oh my God, like the universe saved me such great embarrassments. I'm wearing my castor oil pack.
I love that. Oh, and then you arrived in Guatemala eventually after some flight mishaps.
Yes.
Did you guys take a shuttle to the lake?
We didn't go to the lake right away, and that's what we're going to do again this year. As we usually, you need a day to just kind of acclimate. So we
Yeah.
stayed in Guatemala City, and I always request a hotel with a pool because water is a big, and you don't have water on the mountain, so to speak. We do a plant bath ceremony, but if I could be in a pool of water every day, that's the best for my inflammation. So that's what I needed after flying. So that's what we did. We had a beautiful meal. We all sat by the pool, and it basically was just the retreat and this one other family from Costa Rica that was in the pool. So it was a magical sort of getting ready to hit the mountain the next morning experience for all of us.
And then
And
no.
yes, so we took a shuttle from that Guatemala City to the mountain, and I think they said there's 17 hairpin turns up that mountain, which
Believe
I
that.
was at the back of the shuttle, and I purposely chose that so that I could be kind to my body because sitting for that length of time is difficult. So they actually have pictures of me, my head's on the floor, my legs are up over all the luggage in the back, just stretching and doing my deep breathing and
Yeah.
just doing what my body needed to do, that
Yeah.
movement that I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we started that climb up that mountain, and it was amazing to see those people that live there, how easy it is for them,
To
and
make
how with all of our luggage on their backs on top of it, it's really incredible
yes.
how vibrant the people are there.
Mhm. And one thing that struck me and still strikes me is just the preservation of the Mayan culture. They're still
Mm,
wearing the traditional clothing, and a lot of the
love it.
people that live there, they're not speaking Spanish. They're speaking their traditional dialect, and
I love
you can
it.
also get really beautiful Mayan fire ceremonies. And I had a Mayan astrology reading.
You feel it everywhere. You just feel it in the air. Even if you didn't see a Mayan person, or that, the traditional dress, which is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like they might only have like 3 pieces of clothing too, but it's so meticulously taken care of.
Mhm.
And
Handcraft.
even the did you make it up to the yoga forest when you were there?
Yeah.
Even the way they take care of the land, the stonework that they've done up there is just incredible,
So loved.
incredible.
Feel it.
And my favorite, what we would call an outhouse here, right? Like, what a great design! Like,
Mhm.
there's no smell. It's just,
Yeah, the
I mean,
compost toilets.
the compost toilets are. Everybody should have a compost toilet like that. Like,
Mhm.
I came back and didn't want to flush my toilet. I felt like I was
Realize how much
wasting
water
water.
we waste. Yeah.
Right? Right?
Now, they have
Yeah.
a great system down too, and there's a few of the bathrooms at the Yoga Forest that have the most spectacular view.
Views, right? And
You're
the showers have the most spectacular views on the
like,
planet.
where am I? What utopia? Like, you
It
really
is.
feel a part of nature.
Absolutely. And so I would say if you're not a nature person, you better start preparing to be a nature person before you come to Guatemala because there's no way that you're not going to be immersed in nature.
Yes. And especially where we're staying, the Kuwak Forest, previously named the Yoga Forest,
Mhm.
um, it's eco luxury. Like they are trying to find ways to connect you to the land and to live with a minimal footprint on the land, while also like every time I've been there, I felt very luxurious. Between food,
Absolutely.
showers, and the nature, and just the practice spaces are so gorgeous because you're up in the mountain, you're removed from the hustle and bustle of San Marcos, or the lake itself, and you're
Right.
little energy just up nestled in the mountains with these gorgeous views. All these windows are open air,
You
and
wake up to the most surreal view of the lake and the mountains. Like it's so surreal. And every day, of course, it's different, right? Because of just the atmosphere, the sun rising a different way or the cloud coverage.
Mhm. And then you walk into this beautiful retreat that is being just lovingly held by guides. And it sounds like last year there was a lot of cacao ceremonies, some yoga, your movement medicine offering.
So we brought our own cacao ceremonies
Beautiful.
because Bianca loves to run a cacao ceremony. And to me, actually, that was probably one of my favorite offerings,
Mhm.
which I've done tons of cacao ceremonies, but we did it in that what they call a cave. I call it a volcano. Like,
Yeah.
and we hadn't seen it before, and it was like the day before the full moon, so the full moon was out, and we walked into that space where they had lit a fire for us, and we literally just love bathed each other. We went around and drank our cacao and said what we noticed lovingly about the other people. And I truly wish I would have recorded what everybody said to me because I felt like I heard and felt every single word at such a cellular level. And I've always done a little deflection.
Mhm.
And that night I was in full on acceptance. And it
Mhm.
was so magical. But don't you feel like even just being there puts you in a different place? Like, I felt like if resistance was there, it couldn't even stay with
It's a different energetic vibration
me. Mm,
of openness,
mm,
of depth, and of integration. I didn't feel so separate from my conscious and unconscious mind, or super
mm.
conscious,
Yeah.
um, didn't feel that separate. I
Yeah.
felt integrated there.
Yes, indeed. I've only felt it a little bit deeper in, I think, India.
India
But
is also
I felt in India I would have a thought form in my head, and before it was fully formed, I knew the answer. Like I would have a question start to formulate in my head, and I was like, oh no,
yeah.
I know the answer to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, my time in India was very different than my time in Guatemala.
Mm.
But yeah, also very loving. Maybe that's where we'll do the next retreat. Maybe we'll take a group.
Mm. Yeah, I would love to make it back there. Absolutely.
And with the retreat in Guatemala, from my understanding, last year you all went into it thinking that there was going to be a psilocybin mushroom journey. And when you
That's
arrived,
the unexpected. What did I say?
they said, no, we're actually offering ayahuasca.
Yes. Luckily, Bianca and I knew right before we went and had a conversation.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I've been feeling ayahuasca was going to show up. So I'm all in, even if nobody else is in.
Mhm.
And I put no expectations that anybody else had to participate with me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just held that sacred space for everybody to figure it out on their own. And lovingly, everybody chose it. And it made me so happy to hold that. And we had a small group. There were 8 of us that went, and I mean, understandably, there were some people that probably I would have questioned whether, because they were on, medication that a lot of people would say you shouldn't do an ayahuasca journey if you're on this medication. But we gave them individual time with the shaman, and they all made the decision to do it. And the shaman was even blown away by us because he said it was his first group in 31 years that was all women. And I found that shocking.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like he was even saying more because I literally had every single one of those women on my table at one time. Or there was only one woman that I hadn't met before the retreat, but I'd already done a private session on her the day before. So I felt like I knew everybody intimately. So going into the ayahuasca experience, my biggest concern was not being empathic, staying in my own lanes, and not, checking in on everybody, allowing myself that space to have my own journey. I didn't do that well the first time, but the second time I allowed myself to realize that that's one of my superpowers is facilitating, and that I can harmonize being a participant and a facilitator. And so I allowed myself to start singing the Icaros in my head and going with the shaman to everybody as part of my experience. And it was a much more enjoyable experience, the second journey.
Yeah.
Because allowance is key, it's like allow what shows up. I'm like, am I supposed to throw up? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? We just get stuck in our heads. And it's like, why are we trying to figure out if it's a good thing or a bad thing? It just is. If you have to throw up, you throw up. If you don't, you don't.
That you felt the call of ayahuasca before.
Oh, so yes, indeed, my friends. Back in 2011, I felt the call to be in community, and my guide said, well, why don't you give it a try? And so I moved to Hawaii just for the summer with my 5-year-old and 8-year-old. And while I was there, I definitely reconnected to that shamanistic part of me. I knew that I had been a high priestess in Hawaii, and I could just feel it. I could feel the volcano, I could feel everything. And a group of people came to me and said, would you be willing to lead an ayahuasca journey? And I'm like, okay, but I don't know what it is. I'd never had I heard of ayahuasca, but I said yes to leading a journey. So I facilitated ayahuasca before participating in ayahuasca back in 2011, which I don't think you're going to hear that story from too many people on the planet. Which turned out, again, when we just allow and we show up and say yes, magic happens. And it was unbelievably magical. Would I say yes today to that? Probably not. Having been a participant and seeing like how much this shaman worked the crowd, I trusted more, which obviously worked for that particular group. I had 38 people. He had 8.
That's so many.
But it worked. It worked for everybody. Nobody had a difficult time, and I was able to really hold the space for that many people with grace and ease, with just, obviously I had external or higher help from other realms, even probably just multi-dimensional parts of myself, right? But at that time I wasn't that aware of that. I just had 2 rules. One was that if anybody left that space, I was not responsible for them. We had two other people that were trekkers if they left the sacred space. And the other rule was that we could not start the ceremony until my children were asleep. And those were it. That was it. I just stayed open for the rest of it. It was already in me, right? Just a little bit of it was in me, but it led me to like the curiosity of, I knew it was going to show up again. I didn't know when or how, but it does. It's a sentient being, and once you take it in, it's in you, and so it will call you when it's ready, right? And I think I needed to finish being the mothering years. My son graduated from high school this year, so I think I was waiting for that time where I didn't have to put them first, and this was my time. And I feel like it was just divine timing, right? It
Yeah.
came in when it needed to come in for me, and I was ready.
I love that. And so the call to ayahuasca can feel like someone asking you to host an ayahuasca ceremony, but it can also feel like, just a curiosity or a pull or an openness. Yeah, I think that pull to it, it's like, yeah, it'll speak to you, and it might be subtle. It might not be a group of people saying, "Hey, will you host an ayahuasca ceremony?" without ever having done ayahuasca, but
Might not be that way. For most people, it's not going to be that way.
no. And so, since going down to Guatemala, to the Coahuila Forest, and doing your ceremonies there, you've been hosting some plant medicine ceremonies. Is that correct?
Some with another facilitator that was trained in it, because I obviously have trusted that I've been trained in other lifetimes in these ceremonies. But yes, more psilocybin ceremonies here in Buffalo, which have been powerful. Usually it's just a solo person. We have done a few couples, but for us, we prefer to really give our individual attention. Most of our people that we've had have had some sort of trauma in the past, some PTSD or something like that. So to have, she's divine wisdom, I'm divine love and healing, so we come together in a very magical way and telepathically communicate with each other during the ceremony, and just really hold a very sacred space for people to fulfill their intention, because again, it really is up to them what they want to receive from this wonderful plant world.
Yeah, there's so many different plant allies and medicines, and there's we're talking about some of the more extreme versions, but even like some of my most intense, powerful, and memorable experiences with plant medicine were with cacao, which is so gentle and loving.
Right. That's what I said was my favorite.
The cacao.
That's why I say that was my favorite in Guatemala, because it was so unexpected that I would receive as deeply as I did all those acknowledgments of who I really am. And I think it was also unexpected that these people that I just met would know me at such a deep level.
Yeah, that they could truly see the beauty in you. So, for someone who's feeling the call to do ayahuasca or really any plant medicine, how would you advise them to prepare?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, with the ayahuasca, obviously there's a little bit more deeper preparation, because once, if you're doing it, especially at the forest with this particular shaman, there is some fasting involved. I would even say, like, if you're somebody that's just having alcohol on a regular basis, like sustaining from some of those things. With ayahuasca, sometimes they say sustain from sex as well. Obviously we were, because we were all there without partners, so that was not an issue for us. But I think if you can purify your body, mind, and soul as much as possible before you do any of these types of journeys, you're going to have a better experience. The less toxic you are, body, mind, and spirit, the better the results are going to be, because you're going to drop in to those more sacred spaces within you without having to dig through the gunk, right? The mush.
And when would you advise someone to set their intention for a plant medicine ceremony?
I guess it depends on the plant medicine ceremony. I know for my first psilocybin journey, I set mine pretty early on because it was my first. So I really wanted to solidify that intention. But now, if I do a journey, I can have my intention set moments before, because I've been working with that medicine a little bit more. Obviously, even I found out right before we went to Guatemala, so I had a little more time than everybody else did to set my intention for the ayahuasca journey. I think it's really individual though, because some people are so good at just really embodying their intention immediately, and some people are not. So, if you know yourself well enough to know it's going to take you a while to like solidify your intention within your physicality, then spend more time on it.
What is the benefit or the medicine of ayahuasca?
Hmm. Well, there's a movie that I watched last night where Deepak was saying that he doesn't see ayahuasca as a hallucinatory medicine, which I love that. He basically said it's like a doorway or a gateway. I have the exact words. Let me read them because I don't want to misquote Deepak, you know? He said, I wouldn't call plant medicine hallucinogenic or altered states of consciousness. They help people break out of the everyday illusions of separation and into the reality of truth and oneness. I love that.
I love that. Yeah, it's a medicine,
Right?
it's a guide. It's like when you're
And
using.
I think there's sorry, I think there's so many people that want to experience like hallucination, like it's almost like another escape from themselves. And I think that's what that shaman felt in all of us. And that's why he thought it was such a sacred ceremony, because he didn't have to work to get us out of that intention that we're just trying to find the high. We're so bored with life. We're trying something new. We wanted to do our work. We wanted to feel that state of who we really are. We wanted to know the truth of ourselves.
That is so beautiful to go into it with so much curiosity, depth, and love. My understanding, my experience has been that in order to go that deep, there really needs to be a level of safety in the space, in your facilitator, in your own body. So I'm curious, with your experience at the Kuak Forest with their Avasquera, with their shaman Orlando, did you feel safe?
Absolutely. And I feel like if you don't feel safe, don't do it.
Yeah, that's always an option.
Don't do it.
You never have to do anything.
You can even get down there to the ceremony and say no thank you.
Absolutely.
Nobody's forcing you to do it. um I took one look at this man's picture, when we heard that he was going to be there, and I'm like, he's my dude, and I really think if you're not feeling that, if you're questioning it at all, then spend some time with that shaman and figure out if he can be your dude before you partake. You need to feel safe. You need to feel held in a sacred space in order to really get anything out of these, because even me, I felt the safeness. I was like, this is my dude. And my mind still was, the minute I got on ayahuasca, I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to be feeling? Like, is this the right feeling? And then I went into like all of this crazy stuff. Like, this guy's a charlatan. Like, I couldn't believe it. And it happened on both journeys. I couldn't believe it happened the second journey. And even while my mind was like, this is crazy, I can't believe I wasted my money doing a second session. Why did I do this? My mind was also saying, you're going to fall deeper in love with him in 2 seconds. Like, I knew that too.
Mhm.
And the second journey, I must have said gracias over 1,000 times out loud. I couldn't stop saying it because I just felt so much joy and love and tenderness coming from this man that is literally given his life to do this work.
He lives it, he embodies it. I think that makes all the difference. Like you said, he has dedicated his life to this. That's why, even though we're taking a group down there and we'll be facilitating some of the activities, we're not facilitating every single experience. We're curating an experience with the best of the best. We'll be offering yoga, meditation, cacao, movement, and tools that you, me, and Bianca have been able to dedicate parts of our lives to. I believe that ayahuasca or plant medicine in general is a tool. It's an option. It is a pathway into self knowledge and healing, but it's definitely not the only one, and it's not the path for everyone. I believe honestly and truly that you can go on this retreat and not do the ayahuasca and still have a totally transformative and potent experience.
Absolutely.
Because the energy, just stepping out of your daily routine, getting out of your everyday life and having a curated experience with nature, with plant baths, with cacao, with the divine feminine. But then also like in Guatemala, which is one of the most magical places in the whole wide world. Like no matter what you do or don't do on this retreat, there's going to be transformation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And back to that, we keep talking about the beauty of Guatemala, but I do want to say that, they speak a different language. So whenever I go to a country where they speak a different language, I do have some fears being a woman,
Mhm.
right? And just the safety of not being able to communicate my needs with somebody that might not speak my language. Um, I knew that I wanted to go to Guatemala, but I also knew that I wanted to go with Bianca because she had been there before. So, you know, finding that safety too, or just having that awareness that women, a lot of women do feel unsafe going to foreign countries when the language is different. Because as I hate to say it, I don't even want to own this for us, but it's just in our DNA to feel that men can be predators, and so we need to own that it's there for most of us, if not all of us, and work through that part of it as well and create safety around that. And there wasn't I did hear from a couple of the retreat goers that when they went down into the to town and they were by themselves, that they did feel unsafe in particular situations, but I didn't hear one person say that they felt unsafe on the mountain.
No.
From the staff, from just the energy that Bianca and I held for everybody to be their most magnificent authentic selves, whatever they were going through. If they were like, I just need to sit in my room and journal, when we were offering an event, like, that's an option. You don't have to be present for every single activity. In fact, I'd rather have you listen to your own intuition on whether you should be present. I would rather have you checking in, like, is this for me in this moment?
Yeah.
For every activity, because then you're going to give us full presence when you are there, instead of resistance and whatever else, chaos, crazy, whatever, something else that you need to be processing on your own. Take the time to do that.
Absolutely. And I lived in Guatemala and I've solo traveled all over the world. And so I can definitely speak to that fear. And like there are genuine times when like you need to be aware and there is some danger in the world. And so I think going on a retreat is a wonderful way to like do it with community and to go with people that, have been here before. And the Kuak forest holds such a beautiful safe sanctuary up in the mountains. Um, and so like, yeah, like we are creating safety in a world that can be unsafe. And you can, be unsafe in any part of the world. But yeah, like when you don't speak the language too, that adds a whole other thing. And I mean, we hold a lot of fear in our bodies. And I think one of the beautiful things that we're offering with our retreat is this like knowledge, this like we've been here, we know this space, we're being held by the local community, we are like creating our own safety sanctuary, and not like needing to like banish all fear, but to like sit with that fear and okay, there's like a self-protective mechanism
at least be aware of it, even if you're not willing to sit with it. At least don't try to deny it.
Yeah.
right?
Because it's
Yeah.
it's your body, your psyche, it's some part of you trying to keep you safe. And like we want to keep
And
you safe too as
and
your
I will say, as a facilitator, I am open to anybody coming to me and anytime, day or night, to process.
uh,
You know, that's what I'm there. I'm there as a nurturer, a sacred space holder, and I'm more than willing to process with people.
and Cynthia, who would you say that this retreat is for? Who are we calling in?
We are calling in, I would like to see these beautiful, vibrant souls that are just starting to crack out of the cocoon,
Mm.
and they're feeling this magic rising from them, but they're really not sure what it's all about. I would love to nurture that group. But I would also nurture those badass people that already know who they are, that want to step deeper into their power. But I really feel like there's this huge amount of beautiful souls that are like, what is happening to me? And how do I navigate this?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. Because they're we're going to be guiding people through transformative experiences, but also my hope and my prayer is to give tools for processing, but also integration once they're not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, some of the tools, will you be hosting a movement medicine this year?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. At
It's,
least one, maybe more than one. We'll see how, we haven't worked out our schedule yet, but
uh-huh.
yes. Yeah. Usually I like to do movement medicine in the evening before our bedtime experience so that we're kind of, you know, more immersed in who we are. We move into ourselves more deeply and move out what we don't need together as a group.
How is movement medicine
And
different than like yoga?
it's not as instructed. It's not like move into this pose. Sometimes it's very guided, not from me. So it really isn't. It never has been. It comes from a deeper space. So I just feel the energy of the room and kind of teach from that what I feel is needed in the moment. So if we've had a long day and I feel like everybody needs more quiet, I'll kind of guide in that way, but I'll also give permission for that person that still has a lot of stuff to come through them to come through them.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's most yoga classes have a little more structure to them. This is
Yeah.
very free flowing and anything goes. I might even start to add, I'm really getting into more sound work. I speak light language in my private sessions, and sometimes I sing light language to people. So I might bring in some more of that this year, as I get more comfortable with that part of myself. Um, but I also feel that I would like to explore some more somatic release
Amazing.
in that, in our I've really gotten into that since back from Guatemala, is the somatic release work, which, what a great place to allow more sound to come from us on this beautiful sacred mountain.
Mhm. Oh, I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, so there's all these tools and practices that we're going to be guiding people through, and something that they can take home. You can
Yes,
take home as much
absolutely.
cacao as you want and have your own cacao ceremonies at home. Uh,
Yes, so that's at the end. What we did is we had sort of a transition integration workshop that I don't like the word workshop. I was trying to think session that I'm trying to take work out of everything now.
play.
Play days. So um, we just I led everybody into meditation, and then we just kind of spent some time after the meditation journaling what tools worked for us when we were on our retreat and what we wanted to take home with us. And then we went around the room, and it was so great to hear what tools worked for other people, and because you got other ideas of what you wanted to take home with you. And um it was so magical, and then we all stayed together connected on WhatsApp. So we've had a potluck,
Oh,
and we also usually tell each other when something in town is happening that we might be interested in. So we often meet up a couple here at an ecstatic dance class or a sound bath, or
yeah.
you know I feel like I was pretty isolated at just being a suburban mom before Guatemala. um, and it really awakened that part of me that used to be very involved. I owned like Buffalo Yoga in Buffalo, so I was very involved in that community, and it was really nice to integrate that back in when I came home. And I had no idea how much was here, because I think I hadn't grieved losing that part of myself,
Yeah.
and Guatemala allowed me to bring that back in so strongly, and realize how much is offered here now.
Yeah. Yeah, you and Bianca are up in Buffalo. I'm in North Carolina. I feel like this retreat, we're going to be calling in people from all over.
I know, which that's will be great for us to keep in tabs on WhatsApp together, because it just grows the community. I just was out in Colorado and told some people out there about it. I also was out in Warsaw, New York, and told a bunch of people out there. I'm
Yep.
going to Costa Rica next week, so who knows? We might pull some Costa Ricans in, or some people that are traveling in Costa Rica that might want to show up.
Yeah.
Yes. So this feels like definitely a more. I did love the fact that our first one was everybody was from Buffalo. That wasn't planned. We had some people that weren't supposed to be from Buffalo that were coming on the retreat that couldn't come at the last minute. So yeah, and it was all women last time, and we're certainly open to having any gender. It's not gender specific by
Yeah.
any means.
It's just,
So bring your spouse, bring your child,
mhm.
bring a friend.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it really is a great retreat to have a friend there with you,
Mhm.
because then you can integrate together if you're coming from a different area where you don't know anybody else. And it's just as great if you want to just unplug from everybody and show up yourself. Of course, there's always something to like recreating yourself when nobody else is around, right?
There's no right or wrong way to do it.
No right or wrong way to do it. We're all inclusive.
Yes. And with that, though, we are all inclusive. And for people that are interested, like before you book anything, before any money's put down, we're going to get on a call. And like, either you're going to talk
Absolutely.
to Cynthia, Bianca, me, or a combination of those three, and
Absolutely.
just really make sure that we're all in alignment with the same energy, that you're going to be served at this type of a retreat, that we're the right people to guide you in this. And yes, like all are welcome to apply, and like we do aim to be all inclusive, but um yeah, we want to support you to the best of our abilities. We want you to get what you want out of this. So
Yes.
there's, if you want to jump on a call with any of us or all three of us, it's totally free. There's no commitment that you need to make. If you just want to talk about this or anything that you've heard today, we're happy to chat. So, is there
Absolutely.
anything else that you want people to know about this retreat, or any tidbits from your experience last year that you'd like to share?
What's coming in right now is when you go back home, if you can plan a couple days where you don't have to jump right back in.
Yes, integration.
I feel like giving yourself some time to really, because you can make all these great plans like I want to integrate all this when I get back, but then you get back into your space, and it's so easy to just go back to what you were doing before. So if you could give yourself a couple days, just even one day, to just take that time to say, what do I value now that I didn't value before? What can I really make a commitment to? What can I dedicate myself to practicing? Even if you can't practice it daily, a weekly practice, a monthly practice, something to really anchor in all the goodies that you received while you're away. Because believe me, it was an endless amount of goodies for me.
Mm. Yeah, that integration space, and integration's a slow process.
Mm.
Like there's parts that are your conscious effort to shift and change patterns or to try new things or to use certain tools. And then there's like the super conscious integration of the mind and of the experience and of all the medicines around you. My prayer, my goal, my heart's want is that anyone who's going on this journey with us is going to go through a transformation that brings them deeper into themselves, into their power, into their joy, into their health, into their radiance. They're able to shed off, whatever they're done with, whatever they're ready to release, whatever they don't need to hold on to, because we suffer too much.
I say, struggle is for the muggles, and we are not muggles, people. We're magical beings.
Mm-hmm.
Magical beings. Make room for the magic.
Make a room for the magic. All right. Any final thoughts, questions, tidbits before we start to wrap it up?
I can't think of anything offhand. I think we've done very well of introducing what's out there.
Me too. You can find information about the retreat on either my website, mysticfemininefertility.com/Guatemala Retreat, or on Bianca's website, Beauty on Beholder. If you want to get on a call with any of us, you're welcome to. Cynthia, if anyone wants to contact you individually, either about the retreat or about your healing or space holding services, where can they find you?
I am not on social media really, or even I don't have a website. I am on Bianca's website, or people can just reach out through text. I'm fine with that.
Great.
Yeah. So you can put my number on this podcast if you want, for people to just
I'll
reach
direct
out
them
for
through Bianca.
friendly chat. Okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I still try to fly under the radar, because I'm very particular of the people that I call in. I attract.
Totally get it. And I so appreciate your presence, your heart, your spirit here today. And also I'm so excited to co-create and collaborate with you in Guatemala.
Oh, I am too. This was a wonderful connection. I feel it. I feel the growth. I feel the foundation that we set last year, and how much it's going to grow and expand from year to year. I love the idea of going other places.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you enjoyed it, it would mean the absolute world to me if you'd share it with someone else that you think would like it, or leave a review. You can learn more about our guest by reading the notes below. And if you want to learn more about me, my one-on-one coaching, my memberships, or my online courses, you can learn more at mysticfemininefertility.com or Mystic Feminine Fertility on TikTok and Instagram. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.